Hi, Steve here. Just before we get started, quick question. Would you like to see more growth in your organisation? Are your people truly engaging the audiences that matter to you? Well, the business behind this podcast, Bit Famous, empowers people to be more visible, influential and impactful. Whether that's your team shining on a panel discussion, leaders with more impact and influence, or tailored coaching workshops and programs that drive real results. So, if you have a confidence or communication challenge in your business, just Google Bit Famous and hit the big red button for a no obligation chat. Right, on with the show.
You're listening to the Penny Haslam Podcast. This time, we second guess ourselves. We don't have the belief in ourselves that we perhaps should. And is your culture kind? That's the death knell for great presentations. Do they need presentation skills training, or do they need a bit more of a holistic, general approach? So today, I want to talk about presentation skills training. As a learning and development professional or a people professional or a leader, you might get asked to source or recommend presentation skills trainers in order to help team members who don't seem to be able to stand up in front of others and confidently communicate their information. Oh, and that's frustrating for everyone, not least the person who's trying to have a go at presenting. So then the badge comes out, presentation skills, off you go, you Google it and you find somebody. Great. A different approach might be to think about the problem more deeply. So I've identified sort of 3 areas to have a think about and to look at to see if it is presentation skills that you need, or whether you need a more holistic approach that involves, different approaches really and different ideas for that person. So number 1, message fluency. Is the person able to convey their key messages fluently, authentically, across a variety of settings? Now, that might be everything from a presentation, all the way down to a 2-minute corridor conversation. So can they contract and expand their key messages, and are they congruent? Are they saying the same stuff pretty much consistently, regularly, with a wide range of different audiences? Or do they fall apart when it comes to a certain setting, like a panel discussion or a fireside interview, or presenting to a certain type of audience that might just make them feel a certain way and they come across badly? So break it down into the key areas, the key styles of communication and what they excel at. They might be brilliant at writing and getting their message across that way, or they might be better verbally in short bites, or they might be better when they're being asked a question rather than expanding into their own information. So it's quite nuanced, that bit, and the more senior that person is, the more you should concentrate on these different areas. Number 2, let's have a look at this one, because it's interesting to me, thinking more widely about your culture, your business culture, your organization's culture. How are you at listening to people's ideas and accepting difference in the way that they put them across? So there are a couple of things that are problematic here, and that is the slide deck, right? The deck. Here you go. Here's the slide deck. Fill in your own bullet points, speak to them. That's the death knell for great presentations. So that might be stymieing brilliance within that presenter. And the other thing might be that you've got a long shadow that's being cast by a couple of people who are brilliant, and they're such good orators, and they always do really great presentations. And so how can everyone be like them? And so there's not much room for accepting that other people have different ways of communicating. Is information being shared? Is it being heard? And is it being listened to and paid attention to? And is your culture kind to people who are presenting for the first time, or who are known to be a little nervous under certain circumstances? Or is it quite punishing, and do people end up giving feedback, but triangulated feedback where, you hear third hand from somebody that it didn't go very well? And how are you at giving feedback in general anyway? So there's a lot to think about in the setting. I worked with an organization whose the room that they gave presentations in was dreadful. It had a sort of corridor at the back where people would come and go. So you felt like you were in this big, almost a canteen-like place where people were trying to get their message across, but there were distractions. It had a really tall ceiling so that you felt, I mean, even I, as a seasoned presenter standing up in this room, I felt a bit lost on the altar of this grand double-heighted ceiling. And the acoustics were poor as well. So I don't really feel like I could convey what I was saying. And I had to work really hard to feel confident and comfortable in front of a room. So a less experienced presenter would just fall apart. And a lot of them were doing, by the way. So there's a lot going on. Third point, self-belief. Now, this isn't something you're really going to truly understand in another person at a glance, because a lot of people are walking around offices and businesses and on Teams meetings coming across perfectly confidently. So how can you know if somebody is lacking belief in themselves when it comes to communicating? So they might ask you for reassurance, feedback, reassurance, that sort of thing, after they've spoken in a meeting. So they might say to you or their leader, manager, how was that? Was that all right? And so you know that they're not entirely confident with what they're saying. And let's face it, most of us at some point in our lives, if not a lot of times, are unsure of ourselves. We second guess ourselves. We don't have the belief in ourselves that we perhaps should. Who am I to be sharing this information? And if the conditions aren't right, and if the message fluency isn't there, you might come away from a session of sharing information doubting yourself even further, wondering if you were relatable enough, wondering if people were actually listening to you. And so it can be a compound problem. So to sum up, 3 areas: message fluency, culture, listening to others and letting them communicate in their own way, and issues with self-belief, and whether they are compounded by the previous 2 items on that list. Take that list, have a think about it, look at other people and go, do they need presentation skills training, or do they need a bit more of a holistic, general approach that will enable them to be brilliant communicators no matter the setting? Thanks for listening.